Chapter 11. Malgrath's Trap. Following the urgent meeting at the Temple of Light, the gods agreed to divide their efforts to investigate disturbances in critical regions. As the strategist, Solian outlined the areas to be examined. Thalios and Salara. Investigate the Abyssal Lake, once a hub of natural energy, now tainted by darkness. Zephyra. Protect the Wind Temple from potential attacks. Auren. Remain at the Temple of Light to reinforce the barrier. Elandra. Assist Salara in searching for clues in the natural regions. Nyxara. Scout for magical traces in Staln village, where strange phenomena had been reported. The group's departure was tense, especially as Ignis chose to work alone, refusing to be bound by a specific mission or oversight. Thalios and Salara ventured into the area near Abyssal Lake. The once vibrant forest surrounding the lake had withered, its land cracked and dry, with the air heavy with the stench of sulfur. Salara placed her hand on a lifeless tree, sensing the pain the land had endured. "We are entering the heart of darkness," she said somberly. Thalios nodded, his gaze sharp. "Stay vigilant. Darkness often hides where the light is weakest." As they approached the lake's center, Malgrath appeared, standing on a large stone platform amid the mist. "Welcome, gods, to my domain," he said mockingly. Thalios raised his glowing trident, its light shimmering, before being consumed by the surrounding darkness. "Now, Malgrath, you have no right to be here. Leave before it's too late." Malgrath chuckled, his golden eyes gleaming. "Right? I am the one who defines power here." Before they could react, the ground beneath them cracked open, creating a deep chasm. Thalios and Salara plummeted into a dark labyrinth devoid of light or sound. Separated within the maze, each faced their greatest fears. Thalios. He saw the ocean consumed entirely by darkness, its creatures grotesquely twisted and attacking him, thwarting his every effort to protect the sea. Salara. She was confronted with a vision of all nature turning into a lifeless desert, with plants and animals crying out for help in vain. They struggled to navigate the labyrinth, each step leading them deeper into Malgrath's traps. At the Temple of Light, Auren received a distress signal from Thalios' trident. He prepared to leave, but was abruptly confronted by a surge of powerful darkness within the temple. A towering creature with glowing red eyes breached the barrier, shaking the very foundations of the temple. "Auren," the creature growled, its voice as deep as thunder. "I've come to test your strength." Auren raised the eternal torch, its light blazing brightly. Yet the creature remained unfazed, using razor-sharp claws to tear through layers of light. The battle was fierce, each strike from the creature weakening the temple's glow. Auren, pushed to his limits, invoked the summoning of dawn to seal the creature. However, the spell drained part of his strength, leaving him visibly weakened. On her way back from the fields of wind, Elandra encountered the shadowy figure of a long-lost loved one. "It can't be you're dead," she whispered, stepping back in disbelief. The figure smiled gently. "I can return. All I need is a small favor from you." Elandra hesitated, but the light of her magic revealed the figure's true form. It was Malgrath. "You cannot manipulate me," Elandra shouted, casting a protective circle of light around herself. Malgrath laughed, retreating with a warning. "Your light is still weak, remember. Darkness always finds a way in." At the Wind Temple, Zephyra was overwhelmed by an army of shadows led by Vorin. Despite her strength, she struggled against their sheer numbers. Solian appeared just in time, his glowing hourglass radiating power. "Time is my ally," Solian said calmly. He cast a time-stopping spell, freezing the shadow army in place. Seizing the moment, Zephyra summoned a massive cyclone that swept the shadows out of the temple. As night fell, Nyxara was pulled into a strange dream. In it, she felt the presence of Umbra, twisting reality to control the gods' will. "I must warn them," Nyxara said in the dream, but Umbra's traps made escaping impossible. The gods began to find themselves drawn into a simulated world, where each would face their deepest fears. Chapter 12. Darkness in Dreams. In the stillness of the night, Nyxara was drawn into a strange dream. She found herself standing in a land devoid of light, where everything appeared as faint, shadowy forms. A deep, chilling voice resonated through the void. "Do you think you can stop me, Nyxara? Darkness exists not only in reality, but also in the minds of all." She recognized it as Umbra. His energy twisted the fabric of reality, pulling her into a chaotic, simulated realm. Nyxara struggled to resist, but the surreal dream seemed like an inescapable web. Umbra didn't stop at Nyxara. He ensnared the entire group of deities in a shared dream. A mysterious force linked them to a simulated world, separating each of them and forcing them to confront their greatest fears. Auren witnessed the Temple of Light collapse, its protective barrier shattered, and the light extinguished from the world. The people he vowed to protect were consumed by darkness. Thalios saw the ocean polluted with darkness, its creatures twisted into monstrous forms. He was powerless to save them. Solara watched her beloved forest reduced to ash, with all living beings crying out in agony, pleading for her help. Zephyra chest. Trapped in a never-ending cyclone, she lost control over the wind and her freedom to soar. Elandra faced her own helplessness as she failed to protect her loved ones, eventually being completely engulfed by darkness. Each deity fought to escape their fears, but Umbra thwarted every effort. Standing at the center of the shared dream, his sinister smile stretched across his face. "You cannot escape. Fear is my greatest weapon," he taunted. Amid the illusions, Solara sensed a strange energy deep within the burning forest. Following the feeling, she discovered a mythical being, the spirit of the forest, lying dormant, gravely injured. Solara placed her hands on the creature, channeling all her natural power to heal it. A verdant energy spread, reviving the spirit of the forest. "Solara, you have awakened me," the creature said, its voice echoing like the wind through the trees. "I will aid you and your companions in escaping this realm." With the spirit of the forest's help, Solara unleashed a wave of green energy that tore through the simulated realm, freeing the deities from the shared dream. When the group awoke, they realized they were still in Solara's temple of nature. Yet, something was amiss. A glowing artifact on the stone altar was missing. "Malgrath," Auren muttered, his eyes blazing with fury. A shadowy figure appeared in the distance. It was Malgrath, his sinister smile as sharp as ever. "Thank you for making this so easy. While you were busy battling your fears, I took what I needed," he said mockingly. Auren lunged at him, the eternal torch flaring with intense light. But Malgrath vanished before he could strike. "We've been deceived," Solian said calmly yet gravely. "He now has the upper hand." After the events of the dream, the deities temporarily withdrew to recover and prepare for the battles ahead. Solara worked to fortify nature's strength, while Zephyra focused on safeguarding the Temple of Wind. Elandra, having confronted her deepest fears, began training to master the light within her. "I will not let the darkness use me again," she vowed, her eyes filled with determination. Auren stood at the Temple of Light, gazing into the distant horizon. "We may have lost an artifact, but there is still hope. We must act swiftly before Malgrath can wield its power." Solian approached, the glow of his hourglass illuminating the room. "I've detected a strange disturbance from the ocean. Another artifact may lie there." Thalios. Thalios gripped his trident tightly. "I will go. The ocean is my domain." Elandra rose, her gaze unwavering. "I will accompany you. I can no longer stand on the sidelines." The deities readied themselves for a perilous journey to the ocean depths, where Caelus awaited them with his traps. Yet even amidst the encroaching darkness, the light of hope burned brightly within them. Chapter 13. The Ambush Beneath the Ocean. Thalios, gripping his colossal trident, led the group to the deep-sea region where the relic fragment's signal originated. Elandra followed with a look of determination, while Nyxara kept a quiet distance, observing everything intently. The descent into the ocean was shrouded in a chilling mist, where light became faint and scarce. "What do you think we'll face down there?" Elandra asked. Thalios replied, his deep voice echoing like waves. "Caelus. He has turned the ocean into his fortress." As the group ventured into the deep waters, they were ambushed by deformed sea creatures. Thalios summoned a massive wave to sweep away the enemies, but the force disturbed the underwater structures. A deafening roar echoed through the depths. Caelus emerged, his entire form blazing with black flames. "Thalios! You've arrived just in time to die," Caelus bellowed, hurling deadly firebolts toward the group. Thalios charged forward, his trident forming a protective barrier of water, clashing head-on with Caelus. Meanwhile, Nyxara and Elandra searched desperately for the relic fragment amid the chaos. Nyxara discovered a stone tunnel leading to an ancient chamber, where the relic fragment glowed faintly. But before they could reach it, Umbra appeared, enveloping the room in dense shadows.
"Did you think you could take this so easily?"
Umbra's cold voice reverberated through the chamber. Elandra tried to use her light magic, but it wasn't strong enough to pierce Umbra's darkness. Stepping forward, Nyxara summoned her enchanted lullaby to weaken him. "Keep him occupied! I'll get the relic!" Elandra shouted. The battle between Thalios and Caelus grew more intense, shaking the ocean floor with their immense power. Caelus unleashed a black flamestorm underwater, causing the temperature to rise dramatically. Thalios countered with the wrath of the seas, creating a massive water vortex that engulfed Caelus. But Caelus was unyielding. He shattered the vortex and struck Thalios with a devastating blow. In a desperate move, Thalios' trident emitted a blinding light, creating a temporary seal that immobilized Caelus. However, this effort severely drained Thalios' strength. Elandra finally reached the relic fragment and realized it was more than just a simple piece. The surrounding stone walls bore ancient inscriptions that revealed the origins of the demons, created from primordial energy.
"This explains so much."
"We have to take it back," Elandra said urgently. As they left the chamber, a violent earthquake struck, collapsing much of the underwater structure. Despite his exhaustion, Thalios used his remaining strength to shield the group from falling debris. The group surfaced with the relic fragment and vital knowledge in hand. Though weakened, Thalios stood resolute. "Caelus will return and we must be ready." Nyxara and Elandra, despite the challenges, had proven their courage and capability. As they departed from the ocean, the horizon remained cloaked in Umbra's shadow, a forewarning of looming dangers. Elandra gazed toward the horizon, where strong winds began to stir. "Something isn't right with Zephyra's domain." Solian nodded, his eyes filled with contemplation. "Unstable energy is on the move. We must prepare for what's to come." Chapter 14. The Dance of the Tempest. The winds began to roar across Zephyra's field of winds, swirling golden dust into the sky. This was a land Zephyra had always protected, a place where air moved freely, never bowing to any force. But now, the wind carried a strange, chaotic energy, as if crying out in turmoil. Standing atop the tallest wind tower, Zephyra felt the instability rippling through the atmosphere, her sharp gaze fixed on the horizon.
"The wind never lies," she murmured.
"We're facing a power beyond control." From below the tower, Elandra sensed a cold energy coursing through the air. "Zephyra, it's not just the wind, something alive is within it." The strange phenomenon extended beyond the field of winds. At the Temple of Wind, massive turbines that once turned smoothly now spun wildly, emitting a deafening noise. Trees were uprooted, and flocks of migratory birds fled the region in panic.
Standing at the field's edge, Solian opened his hourglass. The grains of sand within no longer fell in their usual rhythm but swirled chaotically, as though time itself had been disrupted.
"This storm isn't natural," Solian said, his eyes heavy with concern. "Something has triggered it." As the tempest grew stronger, Zephyra couldn't suppress memories of the past. Centuries ago, a similar storm had ravaged this land, leaving scars that never fully healed. It was the last time she had seen her companion, a spirit of the wind, sacrifice itself to seal the storm. Zephyra turned to Elandra. "Last time, I wasn't strong enough to save everyone. This time, I won't let it happen again." The chaotic winds didn't just bring destruction, they carried faint whispers. Zephyra listened closely, realizing it was a cry for help from a creature trapped within the storm's core. "It's calling to us," she said, "but it's also the source of all this chaos." Elandra nodded, her expression resolute. "We must help it, no matter the risk." Zephyra, Elandra, Solian, and Thalios ventured toward the storm's center, where the winds were at their fiercest. Each step was a challenge, as swirling air currents formed miniature tornadoes around them. Zephyra used her command of the wind to create a protective barrier, enabling the group to press forward. But the storm grew stronger, seemingly intent on stopping them. "We need light!" Zephyra shouted. Elandra stepped forward, summoning the light magic she had learned from Auren. A radiant beam burst forth from her hands, piercing through the storm's darkness and illuminating their path. At the storm's eye, a colossal figure emerged. It was Auren, the ancient wind spirit once revered as the guardian of this field. Now, it was consumed by chaotic energy, its glowing green eyes filled with pain. "I don't want to harm you," Auren said, its voice like wind howling through cliffs, "but I cannot control my power."
Thalios stepped forward, his trident glowing brightly. "We're not here to fight you. We're here to help." Zephyra approached, her wings shimmering in Elandra's light. "Arion, you once protected this land. You don't have to face us as an enemy. Let us help you break free from the darkness," Arion roared, shaking the very air around them. "You don't understand. I've been sealed for too long, and the darkness has taken root within me. If you can't free me, I will destroy everything." Solian used his hourglass to slow the chaotic energy around Arion, giving Zephyra and Elandra a chance to act. Zephyra summoned all her wind power to calm the turbulent air, while Elandra used her light magic to purify the darkness within Arion. After an intense struggle, the shadows dissipated. Arion lowered its head, its glowing eyes now filled with peace. "You have saved me." As a gesture of gratitude, Arion bestowed upon the group a glowing artifact, shining like the dawn. "This is part of my power. Use it to protect this world." The storm subsided, restoring tranquility to the field of winds. The air became gentle once more, as though thanking the deities for restoring balance. The group returned to the Temple of Wind to recover. Zephyra stood atop the tower, gazing at the horizon where the first rays of dawn appeared. "We've lost much," she said, "but we've also learned that nothing is stronger than unity." As the deities prepared to depart, Nyxara arrived, holding an ancient scroll. "I found this in the Cavern of Darkness," she said, her eyes filled with concern. "It contains the power to seal demons, but comes with great danger." Elandra gripped the artifact in her hand tightly. "We don't have time. Malgrath won't stop." Chapter 15. The Sealed Scroll. Upon returning to the Temple of Light, Nyxara placed the ancient scroll on the central stone table. The scroll's surface was covered in ancient runes, glowing faintly with a purple light. It radiated an energy both alluring and dangerous. "This scroll doesn't just contain sealing power," Nyxara said, her eyes filled with unease. "It's sentient, almost alive." Elandra approached and gently touched the cover. A chilling sensation swept through her, but the light from the relic fragment in her hand dispelled it. "It doesn't fully belong to the darkness, but it's not of the light either," she remarked. When Nyxara opened the scroll, a thin wisp of black smoke escaped, curling through the air. The characters inside rearranged themselves into an ancient language only Nyxara could decipher. "The scroll reveals that demons weren't born, but were once beings corrupted by primal energy," Nyxara explained. "Malgrath, he knows how to manipulate this power to create his shadow army." Solian pondered her words. If this is true, the scroll is not just a weapon against the darkness, but a key to unraveling the origins of all demons. As Nyxara attempted to read further, the scroll suddenly emitted a black light that sought to consume her mind. She collapsed, clutching her head as chaotic images and voices flooded her consciousness. "You cannot resist me," a whisper echoed in her mind. "Let the darkness take over, and you will become stronger than ever." Nyxara struggled, but the scroll's darkness grew more intense, exploiting her deepest fears and painful memories, pushing her to the brink of despair. Elandra rushed to her, her hands glowing brightly as she invoked a light spell she had learned from Auren. "You cannot have her!" Elandra cried, forming a circle of light around Nyxara. The light repelled the darkness, but it fought back fiercely. "Be careful, Elandra," Solian warned. "The scroll can absorb even light if you're not cautious." Elandra didn't relent, pouring all her strength into creating a barrier that freed Nyxara from the scroll's grasp. Finally, the darkness withdrew, leaving Nyxara exhausted but safe. As the gods regained their composure, a loud crash echoed from outside. Malgrath's shadow army had arrived, encircling the Temple of Light. They brought massive, shadowy creatures with dense, viscous bodies that charged at the temple's protective barrier. "They want the scroll," Thalios said, raising his trident. "We must protect it at all costs." The battle erupted. Zephyra unleashed whirlwinds to scatter the shadow army, while Thalios summoned tidal waves to extinguish their black flames. Solian manipulated time to slow the enemy's advance, allowing Elandra and Nyxara to safeguard the scroll. Malgrath appeared in the distance, overseeing the battle with a menacing smirk. "You can fight, but you cannot keep the scroll forever," his voice thundered. As the shadow army pushed forward, the gods combined their powers to fend them off. Elandra cast a light seal on the scroll, while Zephyra and Thalios defended the barrier. Nyxara, still recovering from her ordeal, steeled herself to fight alongside them. "We cannot let him win," Nyxara said, her eyes blazing with determination. With a coordinated attack, the gods repelled Malgrath's forces, forcing him to retreat.
After the battle, Nyxara resumed her study of the scroll. She uncovered a passage, revealing that demons were once gods, corrupted by ambition and hatred. "This explains everything," she murmured. "Malgrath doesn't just want to destroy us, he wants to turn us all into tools for the darkness." Solien, holding his hourglass, looked thoughtful. "This scroll holds too many secrets. It's not just a weapon but a key to understanding our enemy."
Elandra nodded.
"But it's dangerous. We must be cautious in how we use it." The gods resolved to protect the scroll and continue their journey, aware that they had moved closer to the truth but were now facing even greater peril.
Solien stepped forward, his expression grave. "I've discovered a time gate within the shadowy cave. It may allow us to travel back to the past, to the very beginning of everything." The gods exchanged looks, understanding that their next journey would not only reveal the truth but also bring unprecedented challenges.
Chapter 16. Secrets of the Past. Solien stood before the entrance of the Cavern of Darkness, where the shimmering light of a time gate flickered faintly. In his hand he held the eternal hourglass, the only key capable of unlocking this journey.
"Time is not a straight path," Solien said, his voice grave.
"We may traverse it, but we must not alter anything."
Auren, Zephyra, Thalios, Nyxara, and Elandra stood nearby, a mix of unease and curiosity etched on their faces.
"Where will we go? And what awaits us there?" Elandra asked. Solien met her gaze, his eyes heavy with the weight of knowledge. "The past, the origin of everything, both light and darkness."
As Solien activated the hourglass, the grains of sand began to flow in reverse. The time gate erupted in radiant light, enveloping the group. A powerful force pulled them into the stream of time. In an instant they found themselves in a void, where time ceased to exist. From there, their journey began. The group emerged in an ancient land where light and darkness coexisted without conflict. Rivers of light flowed through dark mountains, creating a breathtaking and surreal landscape. "This is the primal world," Solien said as he stepped slowly across the ground. "At Flying. The place where all of us were born." Auren looked around, his eyes filled with emotion. "I don't remember this place yet, it feels strangely familiar." The deities watched as the primal gods, including Auren, Solien, and Voren, gathered at a massive temple. This was a time when light and darkness maintained balance, and the gods worked together to protect the harmony of the world. "Voren," Auren whispered, seeing his old friend, who was then a god of light, majestic and powerful. Zephyra observed from a distance, her sharp eyes narrowed. "He was once part of the light. What happened to turn him into a traitor?" The group followed, as Voren became increasingly consumed by the allure of the primal world's untapped power. The raw energy of the land promised unimaginable strength, but it also bore the seeds of corruption. They watched as Vorazan studied a mysterious artifact, capable of amplifying power but also spreading decay. "I can bring order to this world," Voren declared, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "The light is too weak to maintain balance." Auren, in the past, tried to dissuade him. "You cannot use darkness to preserve balance. It will destroy everything we've built." But Voren refused to listen. "You are blind, Auren. Power is everything. Without it, we will lose this world." Their confrontation ended in division. Voren left the temple, taking the darkness, and his betrayal, with him. The group witnessed Voren using the primal darkness to transform other gods into demons. They didn't just lose their light but were twisted in soul and form. Nyxara trembled. They were gods, just like us." Solien nodded, his voice heavy with sorrow. "Corruption is not a swift path. It consumes slowly until nothing remains intact." Solien cautioned the group about the dangers of knowing too much. "Changing the past will lead to unforeseen consequences. We must leave before we are ensnared by the time stream." Elandra, unsatisfied with the answers, stared at Solien. "But how can we stop the darkness if we don't fully understand its origins?"
Solien activated the hourglass again, creating a new portal to return them to the present. As they stepped through, the primal world dissolved behind them, leaving a heavy weight in their hearts. Back at the Temple of Light, the deities were haunted by what they had seen. "If Voren could be corrupted, then any of us could fall to the same fate," Zephyra said quietly. "That's why we must become stronger," Auren replied, his voice resolute. "We cannot allow the darkness to claim anyone else." As they returned, a deafening explosion echoed from the Temple of Time.
Umbra had launched an attack, and Solien, the master of time, now faced the greatest danger of his life. Alondra, seeing the exhaustion in Solien's eyes, whispered, "It's time for me to be stronger. I can't just stand by any longer." Chapter 17. The Fracture of Time. As the gods returned to the Temple of Light, Solien sensed a disturbance in the flow of time. The eternal hourglass in his hand bore a faint crack, and the grains of sand inside swirled in chaotic patterns. "We've disrupted something crucial," he said, his voice laced with concern. "The bonds between us and the demons appear to have shifted. This could lead to unforeseen consequences." Zephyra frowned. "Does this mean our actions have made Umbra stronger?" "Not just his strength," Solien replied, his gaze sharp. "He has discovered our weaknesses." A sudden chill enveloped the temple. A loud explosion echoed from the direction of the Temple of Time, where Solien maintained control over the temporal flow. "Umbra," Auren said, his eyes blazing. "He's attacking the very fabric of time." Without hesitation, the gods rushed toward the Temple of Time, preparing for a monumental battle. Upon arriving at the Temple of Time, the group found its structure warped and unstable. Massive pillars trembled, and the sands within giant hourglasses spun backward, creating strange vortices. At the center stood Umbra, darkness swirling around him like a tempest. "Time no longer belongs to you," he roared. Solien raised the eternal hourglass, attempting to restore order, but Umbra launched a direct attack, unleashing a surge of dark energy that hurled Solien across the temple. Once a symbol of strength and composure, Solien now lay weakened, struggling to breathe. The distortion in time had drained his power significantly. "I can't control it," he admitted, his voice heavy with despair. Nyxara rushed to shield him, while Thalios and Zephyra engaged Umbra head-on. Despite their coordinated efforts, the gods couldn't overpower Umbra. His darkness didn't just strike physically, but also chipped away at their resolve. "You think light can save you?" Umbra sneered. "Soon, you will all become one with the darkness, just as Vorin did." Auren stepped into the fray, his eyes glowing like twin suns. "Light can never be consumed by darkness." He raised the eternal torch, invoking the summoning of dawn. A powerful beam of light erupted, piercing through Umbra's shadows. The radiant energy not only weakened Umbra, but also restored a portion of the god's strength. "You cannot defeat us, Umbra," Auren declared, his voice regal and commanding. Umbra roared in frustration, realizing the tide of battle had turned against him. With a final growl, he retreated, leaving behind a temple in disarray. Throughout the battle, Alondra had only been able to offer support from the sidelines. Feeling powerless to make a significant impact, she watched as Solien struggled to rise, and Zephyra faltered from exhaustion. "I promised I wouldn't be a burden," she murmured, her eyes burning with resolve. "It's time for me to become stronger." After the fight, Alondra approached Nyxara. "Teach me how to control my power," she said. Nyxara studied her and nodded. "It won't be easy, but if you're ready, I'll guide you." Solien, though still recovering, joined them. "I will create a temporal training space for you, Patience. But remember, great power comes with great responsibility." Following the battle, the gods began repairing the Temple of Time. Solien restored the hourglasses, though he knew the flow of time had been irreversibly altered. "We're living in a fractured world," he said, "but we must keep moving forward." Alondra started her training under Nyxara and Solien's guidance. Though grueling, she gradually learned to harness both the light and shadow within her. "You have great potential," Nyxara told her, "but you must learn to control it before it controls you." Alondra nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "I won't let you down." As Alondra delved deeper into her training, a shadowy figure appeared within Solien's temporal training space. It was Malgrath, exuding chaos and deceit. "Do you think you can master this power, Alondra?" he taunted, his sinister smile widening. Though fear flickered within her, Alondra clenched her fists tightly. "I will prove that I am no longer weak." Chapter 18. The Awakening of Alondra. Nyxara stood within a space created by Solien's magic, where light and darkness intertwined. It was the perfect environment for training Alondra, a realm unaffected by the outside world. "You want to control the darkness without letting it control you?" Nyxara asked, her sharp gaze fixed on Alondra. Alondra nodded, though her anxiety was evident. "I don't want to become a tool of darkness, but I can't rely solely on the light either." "Then you must understand it," Nyxara replied. Darkness isn't the enemy of light, of life. It only becomes dangerous when you let it consume your soul. Nyxara conjured small orbs of darkness, instructing Alondra to manipulate them without allowing them to explode. Focus your mind. Don't let fear cloud your judgment. Alondra closed her eyes, attempting to sense the energy of the orbs, but as she reached out, the darkness expanded, threatening to engulf the space. "No!" Nyxara shouted, using her magic to contain the spreading darkness. "You're letting your emotions take over. Try again."
Solian appeared outside the training area, creating a virtual time-space for Alondra to train more intensively.
Quote, "This realm operates outside of real time. You can fail hundreds of times without consequence.
But remember, any sign of chaos could attract our enemies."
Alondra stepped into the space, a cold and silent void. She felt the weight of time pressing on her, but she also recognized it as her best opportunity to grow stronger. As Alondra trained, the shadowy figure of Malgrath appeared in the distance, his eyes glowing in the darkness.
"You think you can wield the darkness without it destroying you?" he sneered.
Alondra faced him, her hands faintly glowing with the light she had recently learned to summon.
"You can't control me. I will master this power on my own."
"Interesting," Malgrath said, launching a massive wave of dark energy that pushed Alondra deeper into the void.
At the summit of a raging volcano, Ignis faced his old nemesis, Caelus. "You shouldn't have returned here, Caelus," Ignis growled, his hands blazing like living torches.
You
took everything from me, Ignis," Caelus roared back. "I'll turn this mountain into your grave." The battle was ferocious. Caelus wielded black flames, while Ignis manipulated molten lava for powerful counterattacks.
Caelus unleashed a surge of dark power, causing the volcano to erupt violently. Louder. Lava spewed in all directions as Ignis struggled to protect the surrounding land.
"I won't let him destroy this place," Ignis muttered, summoning every ounce of his strength to temporarily seal Caelus. But the effort left him significantly weakened. In the virtual time-space, Alondra faced Malgrath not just with her magic, but with her indomitable will. He probed into her mind, exploiting her deepest fears and painful memories. "You've always been weak," Malgrath whispered. "You've never been strong enough to protect anyone." Alondra clenched her teeth but didn't resist. Instead, she embraced the darkness within her. "You're right," she said, her eyes glowing with newfound resolve. "I was weak, but I won't let that stop me anymore." Alondra merged light and darkness, creating a new energy, balanced and powerful. She shattered the virtual space, driving Malgrath away and returning to the real world. The other deities looked at her in astonishment. "You did it," Nyxara said, her voice filled with pride. "This is just the beginning," Alondra replied, her eyes shining with confidence.
Ignis returned from the volcano summit, exhausted but determined. "Caelus is sealed for now, but I don't know how much time we have before he returns." Auren nodded. "We need to continue finding the artifacts before Malgrath gathers enough power." Although tension lingered among the deities, Alondra's progress sparked a renewed sense of hope. Solian addressed the group. "We may not be perfect, but as long as we stand united, nothing can defeat us."
As they prepared to leave the temple, Zephyra and Ignis began arguing over their next strategy. "You always act without thinking," Zephyra shouted. Solara stepped between them, trying to mediate. "We don't have time for this. Thalios has received an urgent signal from the ocean. We need to focus on our common goal." Alondra, standing off to the side, stared at the glowing artifact in her hand.
"We must move faster before the darkness consumes everything."
Chapter 19. A Fragile Alliance. The atmosphere in the central temple grew heavy. Following Umbra's surprise attack, Zephyra and Ignis were locked in a heated argument over strategy. "You're too reckless, Ignis. Your fire cannot solve every problem," Zephyra said, her voice cold like a winter breeze. "And what about you, Zephyra? What has your weak gusts done besides scatter everything without a plan?" Ignis roared, his fiery eyes blazing. Solara stepped between them, trying to mediate. "Enough! If we can't work together, the darkness will consume us all." Before the argument could subside, Thalios received an emergency signal from the ocean. "The currents are disturbed. Something is threatening the entire marine ecosystem," Thalios said gravely. Auren commanded, "Go immediately. We'll try to keep things under control here." Thalios nodded but left a parting warning.
"Be cautious of your conflicts. That is exactly what the darkness seeks to exploit. Meanwhile, Elandra and Solara searched for clues in the natural regions near the temple. They discovered a relic fragment glowing faintly. But when Elandra tried to touch it, darkness from Umbra surged forth, forming an impenetrable seal. "We need Auren's help," Elandra said, her face filled with worry. Solara nodded, her gaze distant. "But we must tread carefully. This seal is not just a challenge, it's a trap." Quote. As the gods remained scattered, Malgrath seized the opportunity. He appeared in a village near the Temple of Light, sowing greed and ambition with promises of power. A village elder, swayed by Malgrath's words, agreed to open the village gates for his shadow army. However, Nyxara arrived just in time, using her enchanted lullaby to prevent the spread of darkness. Auren summoned the gods for a critical discussion. "We cannot continue like this. If we don't unite, the darkness will prevail," he said sternly. Reluctantly, Zephyra and Ignis agreed to cooperate. Solara suggested, "We need a neutral ground for discussions, a place free from personal bias." The gods agreed, and began formulating plans to break the seals and locate the remaining relic fragments. While the gods strategized in the neutral zone, the air suddenly shifted. A thick, black fog rolled in from the surrounding forests, engulfing the entire area. Solian was the first to sense the disturbance. Rising abruptly, he gripped the eternal hourglass tightly. "They're coming! This is no coincidence!" From the fog emerged a tall, shadowy figure, Vorin. Once a god, but now a leader of darkness. "Did you think you could hide from me?" Volhem, Vorin asked, his voice cold as the wind howling through ash. Behind him, a shadow army appeared, hundreds of distorted creatures with glowing, ember-like eyes. Armed with weapons forged of darkness, they charged toward the gods. Auren quickly took command. "Defend the center. Don't let them breach the circle of light." Elandra, holding the relic fragment, stood at the center of the protective circle. Her eyes shone with determination. "I won't let them take this." Zephyra conjured small whirlwinds to hold the shadow army at bay. But Vorin strode through effortlessly, his darkness dispelling her winds. "Zephyra, you've grown weaker," he said, unleashing a wave of shadow energy that pushed her back. Seeing Zephyra falter, Elandra stepped up, her hands glowing brightly. She created a shield of light, deflecting Vorin's next attack. "Do you think you can stand against me, Elandra?" Vorin sneered, sending a surge of dark energy toward her. Elandra pushed back with all her might, her light expanding like a rising sun, forming an aura that shielded the entire group. "I'm not the weakling you once thought I was," she shouted, her voice brimming with strength. Ignis charged from behind, his body engulfed in flames. He unleashed the Inferno's wrath, creating a towering column of fire that incinerated a large portion of the Shadow Army. Solian invoked the frozen flow of time, slowing the enemy's movements and giving Auren and Nyxara an opening to strike. Nyxara casts Enchanted Lullaby, weakening the shadow creature's willpower. They paused momentarily, caught in a mesmerizing dreamlike state. Despite being outmatched by the gods' coordinated efforts, Vorin refused to retreat. He summoned a colossal pillar of darkness, threatening to shatter the protective barrier entirely. Auren stepped forward, the eternal torch blazing in his hand. "Darkness can never overshadow the light," he declared. Unleashing the summoning of dawn, Auren conjured a blinding surge of light that pierced through Vorin's darkness. The brilliance overwhelmed the shadow leader, and drove back his army. As the light dimmed, the gods stood amidst the ruins. Zephyra bore minor injuries, and Ignis was visibly drained, but they knew they had won this battle. The Wardrand disappeared, but his parting words echoed ominously. "You may have won today, but the darkness always returns." Elandra looked at her glowing hands. "I did it," she whispered. Yet deep inside, she knew the greatest challenges still lay ahead. The gods returned to the temple, where Auren's eternal torch still burned brightly. Yet even its radiant light couldn't mask the lingering tension among the group. "We cannot continue like this," Auren said. "We need to find the remaining relic fragments before it's too late." Elandra nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Let me help. I won't let anyone fail." Chapter 20. The Shards of Creation. In the deepest chamber of the Temple of Light, the deities gathered around an ancient scroll discovered alongside a shard of an artifact. The light from Auren's eternal torch illuminated the inscriptions, causing them to glow brilliantly. "These shards are more than just relics," Auren explained. "They are the shards of creation, the primal energy source that once maintained balance between light and darkness." Solian nodded,
the light of his hourglass shimmering. If we gather all the shards, we can end the power of darkness. But the challenges ahead will be formidable. Nyxara frowned. The mythical beings guarding them won't let anyone take them easily. The scroll revealed that the shards were hidden across 4 distinct locations, each tied to a natural element and guarded by a powerful primal being. Shard of Fire, deep within Ignis's volcanic region, where lava flows endlessly. Shard of Wind, hidden in the Field of Winds, guarded by a legendary wind spirit. Shard of Water, beneath the ocean depths, protected by an ancient sea creature. Shard of Darkness, deep within the Cavern of Darkness, where Umbra's power is absolute. These aren't places we can traverse easily, Zephyra said, concern flashing in her eyes. But it's our only hope, Auren replied firmly. We must prepare. As the deities deliberated, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. A chilling wind swept through the temple, causing the small surrounding flames to flicker wildly. Darkness is moving, Solian said, his gaze fixed on the hourglass. Umbra knows our plan. A deafening explosion echoed outside. Umbra's demon army surged through the temple gates like a black tide, led by Vorin himself.
Zephyra reacted first, summoning small cyclones to block the advancing forces. But Vorin's darkness easily tore through her winds, forcing her to retreat. Ignis stepped forward, his eyes blazing like molten lava. "You will not pass!" he roared, hurling a massive fireball. The resulting explosion incinerated much of the demon army, but Vorin remained unfazed. "You overestimate yourself, Ignis," Vorin sneered, conjuring a wave of darkness that extinguished Ignis's flames. Auren raised the eternal torch high, its light spreading across the battlefield and pushing back the surrounding darkness. "We must fight together," he commanded. Nyxara cast her lullaby of illusions, weakening the demons' will and slowing their advance. Solian activated Frozen Flow of Time, slowing the enemy's movements and giving the deities an edge. At the center, Elandra summoned light from the shard she held, creating a protective shield that covered the entire temple. As Vorin prepared a final strike, Auren stepped forward. He summoned all his power and unleashed the Dawn Summon. A blinding burst of light, akin to a miniature sun, erupted from the torch, driving the demon army out of the temple. Umbra and Vorin were forced to retreat, leaving behind silence and ashes. After unleashing his power, Auren collapsed. Elandra rushed to his side, helping him up. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "I'll manage," Auren replied weakly. "But this has drained much of my divine strength." Zephyra looked around the temple, once a formidable fortress, now left in ruins. "We can't let this happen again. If darkness attacks once more, we won't be able to withstand it." Solian proposed a plan. "We must split up to find the shards. Traveling together will only make us an easier target." The group divided into smaller teams. Auren and Thalios to go to the volcanic region of Ignis to retrieve the Shard of Fire. Zephyra and Solara to the Field of Winds, where a legendary wind spirit guards the Shard of Wind. Nyxara and Elandra into the Cavern of Darkness, where Umbra's presence is strongest. As the teams prepared to set out, the eternal torch's light still burned brightly in the temple. Yet even its radiance couldn't conceal the unease in their hearts. "The challenges ahead will be harsher than anything we've faced," Auren said, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the volcanic peaks glowed red. "But this is the only path forward." Elandra tightened her grip on the shard in her hand, her eyes blazing with determination. "We will not fail. I will prove that I am strong enough to protect everyone."